We now go to session 8, the last case study in relevance to the question whether a religion was the source of conflict. In this case study, we discuss the question usually raised by many, that Islam is spreading faith by the sword. Well, a few chapters in history have been as misunderstood as the early expansion of Islam. Within a single generation after the Prophet Muhammad's passing, Arab Muslim communities defeated the Byzantine and Persian empires, two superpowers of the ancient world. To some observers, this seemed like conquest by the sword. But history tells a different story, a story of political expansion, defensive strategy, and administrative reform, not a campaign of forced belief. During the Prophet's lifetime, every major battle, Badr, Uhud, and the Trench, was fought in defense, not domination. The early Muslims faced persecution, exile, and repeated attempts to extinguish this community even after they migrated to Medina. Even the conquest of Mecca, often cited as a proof of aggression, was largely bloodless. It was marked not by revenge, but by forgiveness. The Quran declares plainly, there is no compulsion in religion. After the Prophet's death, the early caliphs expanded outward, but their motives were practical, securing unstable frontiers, unifying tribes prone to internal conflict, and gaining access to the major trade routes of the region. They built an empire of administration, not forced conversion. Christians, Jews, Zoroastrians kept their faiths. They maintained their clergy, their scriptures, their institutions. They paid a tax, yes, but they were also protected by law and often held positions of influence in the new governing structures. Ironically, many Muslim leaders discouraged mass conversion because new converts paid fewer taxes than non-Muslims. Islam spread not by policy, but by attraction. It took centuries for Egypt, Persia, and North Africa to become majority Muslims. The change came through trade, scholarship, and intermarriage. It was the example of a faith that united morality with intellect, practical governance with spiritual purpose. Scholars like Richard Bolliet show in the first century, 10% were Muslims. In the second century, 10 to 20% became Muslims. In the third century, 20 to 40% became Muslims. In the fourth century, majority Muslim in the region. This pattern appears across almost all conquest regions. For example, Egypt took around 350 years to become majority Muslim. Persia became majority Muslim 300 to 400 years after conquest through personalization of Islam, not forced conversion. Islamization in North Africa took 250 to around 400 years, driven by local dynasties, trade, and Sufism. By the era of the Abbasids, Baghdad had become the intellectual center of the world. Science, medicine, philosophy, astronomy, mathematics, knowledge flourished because faith encouraged reason, and reason in turn illuminated faith. The synthesis became the most powerful instrument of persuasion, far stronger than any sword. To reduce Islam's early history to conquest is to misunderstand both the sword and the faith. The sword secured borders. The faith opened hearts. As the Quran instructs, invite to the way of your Lord with wisdom and gentle counsel. The early Muslims expanded territory, but what endured was not the empire of land, but the empire of meaning. A civilization built on justice, knowledge, and a vision of human dignity under one God. Their greatest victory was not military, but moral